The Cipher Brief, because national security is everyone's business.
Krill is the CIO of Uker Telecom, which must be a rather stressful position given what's going on in the country, and especially with critical infrastructure being specifically targeted by Russia. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your great event. You talk a lot about Ukraine and how our situation affect on the other countries, and I appreciate to be here. If we can share some slides which I prepared to just illustrate what I will talk about. Yeah, great. And here you see our headquarters in the downtown of Kyiv. It's more or less a year ago. And if we can switch to the next slide. Yep, and this is our headquarters a month ago. So from the very beginning of this invasion and cyber war, we understand that for now the cyber and physical war are go together, and we can't think about one between the other dimension. And if we can go further. Yeah, and the next two slides, please. And just to understand what we are doing here. So we for now, instead of all the situation are in Ukraine, we are maintain more than 80% of our network and our country, and we reconnected through this last 9 months and more than 300,000 of households for our citizens. And due to all this invasion, we understand that, or we move our focus from the business perspective to more social perspective, because in the our days or our situation, the access to information become not only basic human right, but it can help to save the lives of the people, because in some region where they don't have light or they don't have an mobile connectivity, they still need to do when the missiles attack began, when they need to go to shelters, when it's the end, and how to deal and to access for sure to the democratic news and to understand how the world react on this situation. It's very valuable for people, especially on the temporary occupied territory. They want to know how to society react and what is going on this on the world around them when they are covered by Russian propaganda, by they isolated from the other source of information, and it's very valuable to have access to the information, to the connectivity. And next, please. Yeah, and close to the topic, to the security and our war on the frontier of the cyber security. So from the very beginning of our war in 2014, we realized numbers of attack. We register numbers of attack on our infrastructure, but from the active phase of invasion, as in the February of this year, the numbers of attack increased dramatically, and we see more than 10 attacks each week. So just a few figures to understand that we see more than 18,000 attacks on our perimeter, on our DMZ. We have more than 10 attacks for the DDoS, and one of them was more than 36 hours in a row. So it was a very huge attack for our team, and for all this 2.5 days, we should to react on it. We should to respond and actively doing with this. And one of all this attack was successful, or maybe more close to success. What attacker wants on the next slide. It was on March 28. It was my birthday, so yeah, it's as everybody know who celebrate birthday in March. from the lockdown. The worst party was in 2020, but for me now 2022 become the worstest. I hope it will hold this place forever. Yeah, on March 28, the attackers start their malicious activity from some compromised account of our employee on the temporary occupied territory. That's why I said that the physical and the cyber dimension are very close, especially on the temporary occupied territory. When they have physical access to users, it's become more and more harder to understand how to react, how to resolve, and how to understand if this activity from user is normal or not. And on this day, we saw the hackers' activity. We saw some compromised resources on our network, and I take decision to restrict services for our B2C and B2B customers, just to be sure that our special customers like military services and other receive services continuously, and no one of these services are compromised from our side. As you see in chart, as it was registered by extended services, traffic on our network dropped for the more than 80% for the 15 hours in a row. In 15 hours, we are totally control our infrastructure, and we totally understand which resources was compromised and isolate them, and we start to provide services for our customers. And the next days, all our B2C and B2B customers was online. So it was less than day blackout for our customers, but as I said, we was sure that services for our military forces and the special customers was provided uninterruptedly. If we can move to the next slide. Yeah, and that's as I said, that's cyber security and our cyber perimeter totally dependent on our physical security. So before the war, we have redemption like most part of telco, double N, so for all our infrastructure. But from the invasion, we understand that it's enough. And for now, we use, as we discussed in previous with previous speakers, we use cloud services to reserve our infrastructure, to reserve more critical services. And we have increased more than 4 times all our connectivity with European and international operator to be sure that the services are provided uninterruptible. And as we see from the missile attacks, the supply chain for the telco start to disrupt, and as we are in the supply chain for all our other customers, it's hard to realize, but telco become one of the biggest target of attacks, because when you disrupt telco services, when you disrupt our infrastructure, you disrupt all supply chain or value chain for all our customers, like in other operators, because we are national operators, and more than a few thousand small operators relied on our network, as the B2B and B2C customers, and for sure for the government and special customers, which are reliable on network services and on connectivity. Now more than ever, they use satellites, they use other cloud services, and so on, to be sure that the fights on the fight zone are on the control and going on the right way. That's why the supply chain attack are the most common on our situation in Ukraine for the last few, or maybe 6-8 months, what we have registered and what we see. So in general, that's most part what I want to say. We can go further with your questions or maybe some feedback or reflection on what I say.
Mhm.
Well, first, thank you for your time today. That's just seeing the headquarters and the visual of the real wartime environment that you're in is very revealing. Just a question along those lines: when your services that have become even more critical in that environment start to become demanded and really relied upon, are you able to bring or train and bring additional members to your team, or are you having to work with those that you already had at the start of this conflict?
It's a very hard question and very complicated because due to war, a lot of people are moved or displaced from the Ukraine, and a big part of these people are IT people or security people, because the demand outside of Ukraine is very high, and they move to the other countries. But in the other way, or other hand, we see that the social function which we bring to our people in the country are encourage a lot of people to join our team, to start work with us and to help us to go to better react on this situation. So we have a two different stream, but in the end of the day, yes, we can attract a new talents which want to help through our services to our country and so on. And from the third side, we have a lot of support from the Western vendors, which provide their resources for us to react, especially when we in active phase of attack, to react, to understand what's happened, how to provide. And a lot of security patches from the last 6 months become from the as investigation from our attack. For example, one of our attack was compromising of two-factor authorization, of second factor of authorization, and we resolved that second factor or one-time password is not enough, and yeah, and for now you have a patch which resolved two-step authorization.
I have to ask, given that you're under kind of the day-to-day, I mean, your country is in the middle of a war, and you're the CIO for, you know, the private sector company that really provides the telecom services for the country. Are you even able to take time to step back and think, what lessons are we learning in this moment that we're going to be able to apply later, that's going to sort of change the big picture when it comes to securing critical infrastructure? Or are you still just in the kind of day-to-day, we can't let our guard down and we don't have time to think about the lessons learned?
You know, the first few months was, as you said, in the day-to-day, we are just focused on the operation to understand how to react, what we should to do, where we should to move our people, because when some people are in the shelters, some people are in the road because they move their families outside of the active attack zone, and it was a nightmare to understand which resources are available at the moment, how to deal it and how to manage it. But later, when we more or less stabilize our processes, our people and resources, yes, for sure, we need to go to make a step back and to understand how to make our resilience better. For example, what was saying previously on the some conversations, it's we need some regulation for the whole industry to make all industry more reliant or resilience, higher resilience for the cybersecurity. Because if one, for example, one of telco will be disrupted, the other telco will feel a lot of pressure from the overload of their network and so on. So we can't focus only on one company or on one operator. So that's why there's such activity which are increase awareness and level of cybersecurity of entire industry or entire sector is very valuable for us. And for sure, cooperation and communication between the different companies, stakeholders, public sectors, and government is very valuable to react from all country to this situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And do you find that the alerts for your cyber protection are getting to you in time, or is it all just you're getting hit, so you're defending? Are you getting at least a few moments of footsteps in advance to try and batten down those hatches, or is it really just reactive?
For sure, we do a lot as reactive on alert, and we work a lot with the different vendors to increase this numbers and part of our infrastructure which we can monitoring, because for example, sometimes you need to monitoring your partners or your customers to understand that their network are compromised, and you can expect some attacks or some malicious activity from the network of your customers or from the network of your partner. That's why for sure we do a lot of prevention or investigation before before we feel that or we release some incident. For example, we do a penetration test for one segment of our customers, B2C customers, and we see that a lot of IoT on their network are compromised, and they use it by hackers to attack on our infrastructure. So this was one of big insight to understand how to react. Sorry, how to react on your customers' infrastructure, and how when your customers' infrastructure are compromised.
Mm-hmm. I think that, you know, in the U.S., the U.S. has always, especially in the cyber community, has always looked at Ukraine as in many ways admirably, but also in the unfortunate position of being kind of a test bed for cyber operations that particularly Iran launches to sort of see how things are going to go. So I'm guessing that protecting critical infrastructure is not new to you because of the invasion by the Russians in February. So I'm wondering, kind of like lessons learned on that. Have you seen any tactics or techniques or anything on behalf of those adversaries that are attacking critical infrastructure, at least in the cyber sphere, because we know you're under physical attack as well? Have you seen anything change dramatically with the ground invasion that happened in February?
Sure, that's a lot of attention on the cybersecurity and the cybersecurity field of our protection, and a lot of cooperation between different vendors, public sector and private, to increase all this protection for critical infrastructure. So yeah, we see a lot of activity from the different part, from the different government sectors and vendors to increase all this cybersecurity protection from the different angles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And did you find that, I'm imagining you're leveraging a good bit, being in the business that you have a lot of legacy systems and IoT and operational technology. Have you found that that's been a real challenge to protect as well, or has there been a difference in the way you've had to apply some of those methods?
Sure. We have a lot of legacy as the all big enterprises, and it's problem which will be for everybody. We try to isolate them, from the all other infrastructure to be sure that if they will be compromised, especially if some hackers or other guys have physical access to them, it will be easy to compromise them with the physical access. So if and we try to isolate them as much as possible from all other infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to ask you as well, and I probably should have maybe brought this up in the very beginning, but I'm very curious to know what the situation is like in Kyiv right now. What is the day-to-day life like? What's it like on the streets? How are people going about their lives under these both physical and cyber attacks?
It's interesting because people try to live the normal life, because it's very hard mentally to be all time on such pressure. So people try to find some, let's say, stable things which they can link to their stable life. For example, go to some walk or whatever to spend some times in communication. And it's hard because for now, more or less each 4 hours we have a blackout for 4 hours. So you need to understand how to do your day-to-day stuff, work and other due to this whole situation. But people try to live a normal life, try to spend at least 15-30 minutes per day for, say, our usual activities, maybe for some socializing or going somewhere, just to be not focused all day on this, because to stay stable and to maybe to keep and support other people on this situation, because only when you can communicate with other people, when you can try to understand and help other, you can continue your life in such situation.
I definitely can understand, just having worked in war zones in the past, I can understand the mental health angle to not being in that sort of fight or flight mentality all the time. I cannot imagine what you and your fellow citizens of Ukraine have gone through since February on this. Matt, any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
It's just incredible to hear the methods and how you are still holding strong on keeping your sectors up and running. So just a kudos and thanks to you for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for all support which we feel from your side, from your country, and from personally each individual which help us. It's very valuable for us, and all this support just ongoing help us to stay and help us to doing what we do. So yeah, we really appreciate. Thank you, and thank you for your time and for my presence here, for having me here.
Real Gonchak, thank you so much for your time. You're CIO of Ukr Telecom, joining us live from Kyiv.